Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I was hiking somewhere in Virginia. I strayed off the main path. The sun was setting and a copper gloom illuminated the forest. The reddish hue caught off the scant silver patches of rusted traps. There were animal traps all around me. I saw a decayed, musty cabin a few yards away, blanketed in the autumn leaves. The light started to fall. I hurried my pace. All of a sudden, the ground began to collapse beneath me. Someone screamed, "Look out!" It pulled me away just before I fell into the pit. I looked up, and it was an old man wearing an orange cap and a plaid vest. I thanked him. I lost consciousness. I woke up to the thick golden light of the morning. I crawled over to the pit. It was filled with stakes. There, twisted on one of the stakes, was a skeleton. It was wearing an orange cap and a plaid vest. I later did some research and found that a very renowned, kind hunter had gone missing near his summer cabin some 50 years earlier. He is still there, as far as I know. A savior for any unfortunate sap who happens to fall victim to the very pit he had died in.
Be about 15 or 16, at my family's cottage with a friend. We go to the beach about a mile away at 5:30. We do not decide to leave until 6:30, when it is pitch black. The way back is through a forest. The trees are all in rows, with about the same space in between each of them. My friend looks to the right, mutters something, then starts sprinting down the path. I sit there stunned, then look in the direction that he was looking, see 3 humanoid shapes crouched over. I yell, "Holy shit!" The biggest one's head snaps towards my direction. All of them stand up. I can't move because I am so terrified. They stare at me for about 5 minutes. The big one says something. They start walking towards me slowly. I finally work up the strength to get the hell out of there. I tell everyone. No one believes me except my friend, who I was extremely pissed at for leaving me behind. Luckily, we were leaving that night anyway. I haven't gone back to that place since. Not sure if they were people or not. Their outlines look pretty human except the big guy who was a bit too bulky and tall to be normal.
I have one. Be 19 or 20 in college. Friends and I went exploring near campus. A mile away is the house where they used to board slaves who worked at the school, and then they rented the house out to various cooks or janitors at the school for a while post-Civil War. Abandoned since at least the 60s, judging by the debris. Everything is destroyed. The back is half fallen in. Poking around. Friend is taking pictures for a photography class. I will not post them because they are all super close-ups of boring stuff. A leaf, a piano key, etc. I am having a fantastic time. I love doing this shit. Trying to convince friends to go upstairs when suddenly, there is a little boy behind us. Startles us, but nothing to be scared of. Just a 8 to 10-year-old clean, chubby, blonde kid in a Madras-style shirt. He says, "Hey, what are you guys doing here? This is my family's house." I assume he means that his family owns the house. It would not even be a suitable place to squat, and the kid looks clean and well-fed. "Hey, sorry man, we were just checking the place out. We were not going to take anything but pictures." I sometimes make cheesy jokes when I'm nervous. Kid says it is fine. We can stay. We just cannot mess anything up. Says people have been coming here for years, messing things up and stealing, and it makes him mad. We are all cool, no problem. I get the idea to ask him where he came from, how he got here so fast. "Oh, my dad came and dropped me off in his car so I could make sure no one was messing with the house. It is a brand new red convertible. It is our first ever new car." Kid is excited, and that is autistic, so I am like, "No way, a convertible. Awesome." He is like, "Yeah, check it out on your way up. It is on the side of the road." Continue making conversation with friends and photographing, kids still hanging around. I am like, "So do you live around here?" "You?" He looks stunned, says, "Yes, I live here," and points to the house. It is my grandma's house. She got it from her job. At this point, I am slightly creeped out. Anyways, friends are ready to move on and photograph a dam down the road a few miles. Walking up the bank towards a small church parking lot where we parked our car. Friends are joking. "Hey, that kid Anon was talking to was weird. You think he was a ghost?" Lol. In the woods, just off the road, I see an old, totally destroyed wreck of a red 1960s convertible.
Not that good of a storyteller, but whatever. Be 12 or 13. I used to always go into the woods near my house since that was the only thing to do. The woods had a creek running through the center of it. A friend came over. He said, "Hey Anon, let's go make a shelter by the creek." I said, "Sure, why not, .jpg?" We got back there and worked on our lean to shelter. My friend asked, "Do you hear that?" I didn't hear anything and said, "Nah, what was it?" He said it sounded like footsteps. We shrugged it off as a deer or something. Half hour or so later, I heard it, and my friend heard it too. We looked at each other, a little unnerved now. All of a sudden, 3 loud grunts came from the opposite side of the creek. We looked across the creek for a brief second, but there was too much foliage in the way to see what it could have been. It was the second fastest I've ever ran out of those woods. The next day, my friend said, "Let's go back there again." It was probably someone messing with us. I sort of wanted to, but I was hesitant since I was still scared from the day before. We eventually went back there. We went back to our lean-to. Across the creek, a pine tree we remember seeing was now snapped in half. The only thing I can compare the sound of the grunts to is some sort of ape or something, and considering I live in North Carolina, I find it hard to believe some monkey or gorilla was back there. Also, with the pine tree, there wasn't enough wind to snap it in half the night before. It was thick enough to where I'm pretty positive a person couldn't have done it. Probably has a logical explanation behind it that I haven't considered, but nevertheless, it's pretty odd.
The University of Central Arkansas is the last refuge of natural original prairie in the state. At the southwest corner of campus is the Jewel Moore Nature Reserve, and admittedly, it is more forest than prairie. Each year, around the end of April, the Biological and Environmental Science Department, who do extensive research out there, burn the prairie to make sure no invasive species get in, as well as keeping it fresh and fertile. Most of their work is done along the trail or the creek, but sometimes they venture deeper into the woods, which are admittedly thick, unless you follow the trail. Through Jewel Moore runs the walking trail, a popular destination for students and citizens of Conway. Outside of the prairie proper, most of the trail is concealed by the natural forest that grows there. The trail has 3 exits, though admittedly you can leave through the prairie to get to either Dave Ward Doctor or Ferris Road. The 3 exits lead to either the parking lot beside the H. Pierce Center, the band parking lot, or construction sheds. For most who run it, it's a place to get your daily jog in, or daily ride for those bikers. Conway has a healthy cycling culture. But for those who pay attention, especially in the honors college or the environmental science fields, they note that the trail is never quite as short or as long as it was the time before last. Sometimes it's 5 minutes from the prairie to the bridge that crosses the creek. Sometimes it's less than a minute, and that's walking the same space. Mention it to a professor, and they will smile and nod but say no more. Mention it to a student who's never noticed before, and they might laugh. But they'll inevitably do their own experimentation with the trail, and they'll know. I founded the Humans vs. Zombies game at UCA in 2010, It gathered a small but very loyal fan base of roughly 30 to 40 people under my tenure as Commander-in-Chief, but that was my senior year. I handed over the reins in my first semester to a junior of less charisma, but more time, a nice enough guy. I sat on the executive council and I helped make the hard decisions and gave advice, but was a dedicated human who lasted until the last week, as did two of my roommates, one of whom was the sole surviving human by the last night of the game. To keep things interesting, we decided to set up tasks in the game that would give the zombies a better chance of catching humans, missions, as it were. Say a human won a mission where they had to find a flag and deliver it to a specific dorm. The countdown for zombies when tagged would be longer. Not a bad system as far as systems go, but it wasn't really until my successor took over that this took off. I had always wanted to use the nature reserve in HVZ, but I never got the chance. Running it for the first time was largely a game of trial and error, and lessons were learned. What missions were run were incidental and always ended poorly for the humans. Not so under my successor. The humans did quite well, and while I sat on the council, I did not partake in these missions so as not to cheat. Any zombies on council showed the same restraint in the interest of fairness. So come a warm March night, I know there is a mission going on for humans. One of my roommates is participating as the lead human. I don't go to watch over the event because I'm working on my honors thesis. I get a call around 7:30 and much to my chagrin, it's my successor. He tells me only 4 humans showed up and they need a 5th to make it worthwhile. Overall, there were roughly 60 people taking part in the game that semester. At that point, there were only about 20 zombies, and the rest were humans or had dropped out, leaving us with about 54 or so people. Of those, 6 were on council. Begrudgingly, I said I'd be there in a sec. All gathered there, the general population couldn't have been more than 15 people. It was a Wednesday, and Arkansas is in the Bible Belt. The sun's already way past down, and by the time of my arrival, another council member, a human, has joined the group, making there be 6 of us. The zombie council members sit out and elect to be marker points on the trail, at the middle and the end. The rules are simple. The humans have to get through the nature reserve along a predetermined path, by yours truly. The central point being the bridge at the southernmost point of the trail. That is the only safe point, and zombies cannot approach by 25 feet. Beyond that, the humans must reach the band parking lot safely, and if they do, they receive the ability to revive up to however many people make it to the end. Meaning, if 6 humans reach the finish line, 6 zombies become humans. We ran that mission once, for obvious reasons of it being something akin to cheating, but nonetheless, the incentive was enough to get people out of the pews and back into the game. Not so. Anyway, 6 humans, roughly 8 zombies and 1 or 2 councilmen, including my successor. I count as a human in this scenario. The zombies are not wise, led by some moron freshman I'd never met before the game started. Most of them came wearing what they were wearing earlier in the day, bright colors, befitting their fraternity. Only a few upperclassmen have the foresight to wear black in the dead of night in the woods as not to stand out. There are no lights, as everyone knows the trail. Everyone in our HVZ missions are the kind to get out and know the campus, unless it's during HVZ season. So wearing our armbands, the zombies get a 15-minute head start to hide out in the woods and plan accordingly, so off they run. The necessary time passes, and we humans prepare ourselves. Between the 6 of us, we have a small arsenal of socks. My roommate created a contraption to throw socks and have them snap back to him on a cord, and a barrack's worth of Nerf swords, maces, and axes. No guns, though. UCA had a rash of shootings from the time of my sophomore year to the year after I left. We're prepared and largely competent, but as mentioned, no flashlights. We expect to lose maybe 1 or 2 people, but it'll be worth it. we might gain back some key players, and everyone present is willing to make that sacrifice. Honestly, it'd have made more sense if more people came, but no dice there. Anyway, off we go, and we're barely to the prairie before we notice our first zombie. We take him down with ease, but he's by himself in a bright teal polo shirt. Not long after, we take out one of the upperclassmen in black and one of the freshmen in some Hot Topic shirt. In our confidence, we begin to run as the woods pick up, and it'll be harder for the zombies to hide during this stretch. Woods too thick to move in and out of the trees quickly. It is also here that the trail distorts for those who pay attention, and I always pay attention. I have for 3 years, since my lonely freshman year, before I met the girl who is now my fiancée. We have a deep love of the nature reserve. It is at this point that we hear movement in the woods, beyond the wall of trees, that sounds like running. More running that should be possible, in all honesty. Oaks and pines grow in those woods, thick ones, some of them older than the university itself. We celebrated 100 years in 2011, so as this is happening. For those small spruces and yew trees in between, they'd have to be doing a lot of ducking and spinning, and most importantly, we see no one. Sure, one of the idiot polo-wearing jocks might run at us, but we dispatch him with ease, but he never talks to his allies out in the woods. Coming to the bridge, the forest evens out a bit, allowing for you to see into it. Another trail leads directly to Ferris Road from here. Likely a trail made for trucks coming to do construction in the nature reserve. This is the point in the trail where I know we're no longer under the spell of the extended trail, whenever I normally walk, run, or simply enjoy it. We've been running for 10 minutes at this point, with one attack since we left the prairie. Passing the trail, I look back to see the path that leads to Ferris Road, and there have to be at least 10 people running at us. We panic instantly and charge the bridge, now in sight. Each one of the zombies is pitch black hoodies, drawn on their heads. Almost instantly, we lose one of our own, who removes his red armband and trades it in for the black he purchased from Hobby Lobby. We choose to take a breather on the bridge, along with the moderator. Our friend and the jock who tagged him, the only one of his kind, disappear along the trail, circling around via the creek to the other side of the bridge. But merely standing there, we count at least 20 more black shirt zombies. We never make out their faces, and even my fellow councilman, a zombie, is perplexed, from both a neutral and a zombie standpoint. There aren't that many zombies. Only 3 people had been tagged earlier in the day, 4 if you count the girl we just lost. We're in a state of collective, what the fuck. My roommate and I made eye contact. He's a brave soul, and being huge fans of Left 4 Dead 2 back a year before, we recall our strategy on the last level of the parish being to charge the end and damn the consequences. Ignore the tank, the CPU, or the people via Xbox Live. Get to Zachapa. So, in unison, we convince everyone else to damn the consequences and just go for it. We manage to take down everyone who comes after us, and the black shirts must know the rules. They obey them well enough. At this point in the trail, there's another prairie, more sparse, with sites leading directly to Dave Ward, one of the major roads in and out of Conway. In that field alone, we spot around 5 or so black shirt zombies, in addition to those stalking us right now, and those are the ones we can see. So we ran, coming to a deeper patch of trees which is very easy to move through as it's just fur. We lose another human to the horde that has descended upon us. I'm not the most competent human, but I hold my own. My 4 companions are damn good, though. Imagine our surprise when we lose 2 more humans before the end of it. Now when all of the bright-shirted zombies are in sight, including their new acquisitions, along with the black shirts. They don't seem to faze our enemies at all, that they have so many new friends. So we come at last to the last stretch. a bit of trail covered by a deep canopy of trees that makes the road impossible to see at night. So we do the only thing we can and run like hell, swinging as we must. And they're laughing, we realize. We're going to win, and they're laughing. Every one of the black shirt zombies are laughing their asses off as we leave the darkness, run up and over the hill, and into the parking lot. Imagine our surprise when only the now 10 zombies make it after us, out of breath. Our first course of action alongside my successor and the councilman at the bridge is to bitch out the zombies for hiding attendants, even now, out in the woods. The zombies, strangely, are perplexed, asking what the hell we mean. Those they converted, alongside the blue and red polo zombies, explain to their allies that the contention comes from the fact that the other zombies, those not in black, had changed clothes in the nature reserve to black hoodies, black shirts, and dark jeans. This doesn't seem to hold much water, as we can plainly see only the 2 upperclassmen are wearing black shirts and no hoodies. Now, in the light of the electric lights around the parking lot, we realize the confusion on their faces is genuine. They had no idea what we were talking about, and beyond that, it dawned on our polo-wearing friends that they hadn't counted how many of their allies there were. When confronted further, neither had the rest of the zombies. They had assumed that, running at their sides, were the fellow zombies. No one stopped to ask questions. We were in the middle of a game. You don't stop in HVZ. You run or you die. Human or zombie, that is the rule. We press further, making sure that the zombies know the rules about bringing in outsiders. They do. They swear by it. And though I hardly know them, the rest of the people, councilmen included, agree with them. We all elect to go back through the nature reserve and look for these fuckers, as maybe they were just outsiders not playing the game trying to pull a prank. To be as efficient as possible, we divide into groups and go through every entrance, agreeing to meet back up at the H per parking lot. Each group has at least 1 human, at least 1 zombie, and at least 1 councilman. Of the 6 councilmen, there were 4 present. I elect to take the longest route, along with my successor and the polo-shirted zombies. Off we go, not a soul in sight. We get to the bridge and there is no one, not even your casual jogger. Each group finds similar results, not a soul in sight. At best, they heard a laugh deeper in the woods, but no movement. And everyone knows there is ample wildlife in those woods. Not a peep. The elongated part of the trail, the one that varies when you walk it. 2 minutes this next time. So we left in a hurry, going our separate ways and canceling our plans to go out to eat somewhere, likely IHOP. My roommate and I didn't speak of it for the rest of the evening, both either too mad at the idea of the zombies cheating or at the prospect that they weren't. The game avoided the nature reserve for the rest of that session of the game. My roommate won the game as the last surviving human. It was a roaring success, and after my graduation and to this day, UCA Humans versus Zombies continues on strong. But to my knowledge, not a single session after I left has been held in the nature reserve. It remains in the hands of those who paid attention in there and recall the laughter. There's talks of replacing the nature reserve with a Greek circle, a parking lot, or a set of on-campus hotels depending on the time of year. It got very serious in 2012. As of yet, nothing has had the balls to take on the nature reserve, much beloved by all as it is. By everyone, but HVZ anyway.
I was walking in the woods outside of Flint, Michigan, where there are lots of abandoned old barns, sheds, and cabins to explore. It was dead in the middle of winter a few years back. The weather was cold, dank, and wet. I went up one of those old, barely marked trails overgrown with weeds and plants. I came across a rusty barbed wire hedge with tires stacked by it. I decided to jump over it. The area was really full of garbage. There was old industrial equipment, corroded barrels, farm implements, and car parts strewn randomly all over the place. I kept walking for a quarter mile. I saw a collapsed brick graffiti-covered building next to a creek. I saw fucking animal skulls and bones. A pile of them inside the building. Maybe 10 of them. There were half-melted candles all over the place. The place was some sort of black magic sacrificial altar. I saw an effigy of a demonic goat-like figure nailed to a giant oak tree. I could feel something really dark and cold despite the weather. I ran back to the car without turning back, tripping and bloodying my fucking hands on the way. When driving back, I got into an accident. I was driving cautiously and the best I could, but it felt like something pushed my car into the bushes. I called a friend for help. I told him about the whole thing. We made it back home, and I thanked him. Here is the scary shit. My friend after that day has been reporting issues with sleep paralysis. He hears things too, scratching and banging. He tells me he sees shadowy figures around the home months in, but gradually less and less in frequency. I contacted the police about the bones. They went to that same place, but they said they only saw the brick building. Everything had been cleaned up. It was as if someone or something knew I was there.
Here's something I posted on another forum. Ignore references to op and stuff. Too lazy to convert to Greentext. Not exactly paranormal, but this was probably the creepiest thing that ever happened to me. It is actually rather similar to the one in the OP. I live all the way in central Massachusetts, though. So one day it had rained the night before and was pretty cool out. So I decided to go for a bike ride. Where I live was a sparsely populated farming area during the 1700s, so we have tons of old cart paths and logging roads all over. One of them is about 3 miles in length and connects to a dirt road that runs downhill to my house. It's mostly downhill except for one portion near the end, which climbs steeply out of a gully towards the dirt road. Down here is an old mill that operated for who knows how long ago. All that's left of the mill is the sluice for the water wheel and a sketchy bridge made of extremely rotten logs. The access road runs out to an old turnpike which has almost no traffic. Anyway, it began raining again and my derailleur got a bunch of mud and crap in it, so I stopped to clean it out at the intersection. While I was stopped, I noticed that I couldn't hear any birds or small animals, which is usually a bad sign. The fact that it smelled like a bear or a moose was enough to make me want to get out of there. I wasn't really up for meeting either of the two. Unfortunately, this was probably the worst spot for a getaway. It was uphill in both directions or across the stream, which had no really good points to cross at. The old bridge I mentioned probably wouldn't support the weight of me and my bike, and the banks in the area were a few feet tall. I began to walk my bike up the hill to a flat spot where I could get enough speed and shift to a better gear. Then I heard this super loud shrieking noise down by the mill. It sounded like no animal I had ever heard. At this point, I just froze and stood still, trying to figure out WTF just happened. I looked all around me and down into the gorge where the mill is, but couldn't see anything. I heard what sounded like an animal moving through the leaves, but still saw nothing. At this point, I hopped on my bike and just got the hell out of there. The rest of the bike ride was normal, and to this day, I have no idea what the fuck it was. The closest thing I have to an explanation was that a year or two before this, we saw a fisher cat run across the turnpike I mentioned earlier. Still not a very comforting explanation.
Something quite similar happened to me in December 2012. I was hunting with my family. We got a few rabbits, birds, and badgers. We sat down in our camp to roast them to eat them. My uncle came running from deep in the woods. He said, "Let's run the fuck away." Everyone startled the fuck out. We asked, "What the fuck is wrong?" He claims he heard someone tell him to leave. We said, "Yeah, sure, whatever." We were laughing at him as the punks he claims we are. We heard a crippled kind of laugh. We said, "Nope, nope, nope." We grabbed our guns and started wondering what the hell. Branches were getting stomped on. Whatever that was, it was getting closer. My uncle started fucking crying and shouting. Something from the bushes, in the near 100 to 150 yards, started screaming. We were about to nope the fuck out of there, but my uncle turned to look at us and said, "I warned you so." He passed out, and we decided to carry him. We put him in the truck and drove away out of there. He woke up the day after not knowing shit. Our cousins and I look at each other every now and then, wondering what the fuck happened. We never said shit to no one. My uncle seems like nothing happened. I'm still afraid to go into the woods again, and I'm even afraid to start a conversation with my uncle.
Got a weird story from Central Alberta. Me and a friend decided to sit on his back porch and hang out in the nice summer night. A meteor shower started, just a little one, and we watched it for about 10 minutes. And then we heard the strangest thing, a grouse mating call, which sounds almost like someone starting a quad but a little bit longer and quieter. This is unusual because it is nighttime, so we go check it out. So me and my friend go deep into the woods in the middle of the night like idiots. Then my friend says, "Hey Anand, did you see that?" I imagine he is just fucking with me, so I turn and look, and we see a light. Maybe it was a quad, I thought to myself. Then, like nothing, this light covers at least 100 feet in a split second and hits my friend. And he is gone. Just fucking disappeared. I went looking for him, shocked at what I saw, and I found him face down in the stream, naked, crying about, why couldn't he be one of the whole two? I was glad to see my friend no matter what the state of his attire. I stood him up and tried to forget what he was saying. He just kept going on about this grand separation between them and him. Scared as fuck, with him using me as a crutch, we ran back to the house and hopped on the porch like it was some kind of safe zone, which is not the smartest notion. He runs inside and gets some clothes, and I stand inside the door to the back porch looking through the little window. I am looking for something, anything, but it was just nothing but the faintest glow of the new moon, waning or waxing, I can't fucking remember. Then I see someone walk across his backyard, and he lives in the middle of nowhere. The large man stands in the middle of the backyard and sinks into the fucking ground, and I just ran to my friend's room and passed out on the floor. He doesn't remember shit but being naked, and his sister said we came in at 1:15.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.